The pirates. All right, there were 107 girls in that mess. 3 were Cleffangs and are Biran's problem now. The 10 Snatchers are a problem. 10 teleporters trained to jump somewhere and grab prizes before vanishing back to their wretched lair. Franklin, they're axiom freaks. That's your territory. Miles says as he goes over things with the rest of the men. They were having this little impromptu meeting over drinks at a bowling alley that Jake had funded the building of. It was proving fairly popular. Containment is going to be surprisingly easy. They're not flexible, they're not clever, and they don't have that spark needed to push with Axiom. They were taught to teleport places, grab people, and teleport with them. They never figured out the hows and whys of teleportation, only that it worked, which means I just need to set up some fairly basic scrambling in the Axiom wherever we hold them, and they're not going anywhere without some personal enlightenment. The kind that would have them question things to the point they're more likely to be reasoned with. Franklin explains as he tosses a data chip onto the table. And this is? Miles asks, picking up the chip. Containment methods for people like that. It took a bit of experimenting and some back and forth with the rest of the nerds, but we figured it out. Franklin answers. I'm surprised there isn't some basic method the galaxy over, Marcus remarks after taking a drink of his beer. There are some region-preferred versions, but letting these frequencies and variants get publicly known is a bad idea. Without someone there to run interference in real time, a teleport blocking system can only block them in a certain way. If you understand the frequency being used, you can match yourself to it and slip through. The explanation Franklin gives out is understandable and concerning at the same time. Where there are really no reliable ways to block teleportation. So you can block simple snatch and grabs with this, but if people have time to plan and think things through, they'll get through, Jake mutters. Pretty much. Guys, these girls are young. 3 of our teleporting kidnappers outright lied to me when they said they were over 20. I've run a scan on each of them. Only a couple of them could legally drink in the US. They're babies, no brains but lethal weapons, and a terrible example to follow. Victor notes before sipping at his vodka to savor the flavor. He'd been experimenting to find a way so it had the perfect balance between flavor and bite. Yay, I can counter a fairly large area and run active interference for teleporters. But to be frank, people with this kind of ability are far, far rarer than prisons that need people with my kind of ability. What's the usual answer? Deep space prisons. Specialized, no-atmosphere craft with synthetic pilots to deliver food and such, and the prison guards are synthetic themselves. And that's if the criminal isn't considered to be such a danger to the people in public that they're not just flat-out executed. Franklin answers and they stare at him for a bit. Right. Well, the executions are a maybe if they're so belligerent and stupid that they can't be contained. We don't have an isolation station or the staff for something like that. Miles grumbles out. Right. We've spoken enough business for now. The problem is solved and this is our time to relax and reconnect. Franklin, how are the kids? Marcus says to the table before turning to Franklin, who smiles. Little bundles of mewing cuteness from Mabby. Ichi and Nietzsche are about to pop. Mirage's egg is nearing its final stage and Chira is about to lay hers. Franklin answers. What about the Go-Bee girl? Hutha? Smitha? How the hell do you pronounce that? Jake asks. It's almost like Japanese with honorifics, but instead of the title following the name instead follows the tittle. Or rather, their name follows the family name. So when she joined me in mine, she became Thaw of the Smith family, or Smitha in common parlance. Shouldn't there be a slight pause in there? Ryu asks. You'd think so, but apparently that changes the meaning. Obra's, Smitha's first language, is very much a timing-based language. How much of a pause between words and the speed you get them out changes meaning. If I say Smitha at a normal speed, it means one thing. Smitha means another, as does Smitha and Smitha. Franklin explains. I bet that was an interesting conversation, Miles jokes. I still have a headache from it, Franklin says before he takes a pull of his drink. A rum and coke, or rather the closest he could get. Enough about me. Marcus, how are things going? Mona's finally gotten her digging instincts under control. It's either a sign of self-control or the eggs are about to hatch. Marcus opens up before shrugging. You guys have the cuddlier girls. I'm in the middle of Jurassic Park and am about to hit the entire Cretaceous period. Jorgua and Cloaken and Nagasha as far as the eyes can see. The eggs are about to hatch, and when they do, you're about to be swamped, Miles says with a grin. Yes. By the by, not to be rude about your girls, Marcus says, and Miles lifts an eyebrow. Yes? Jingay. Is she? From what tests we can safely run on the eggs, there will not be another Jingay born so far. Jingay herself is rather happy to hear that, Miles says, and Marcus nods. Has she her actual name? Marcus tries to ask without being rude. That's getting a little private there. Sai chides him. Perhaps we should change topic. All right, one last serious topic, then we hit the bowling lanes, Miles says, and everyone gives him their attention. It has been mentioned, but not seriously discussed, on the possibility of extending our reach. We have Vuxa 5 very well defended. Colonies could be made to mine out nearby worlds, and there's a low-intensity star not far away that has a world in the green zone. Vuxa is a duchy at the moment, but it could be the start of an empire. There is a poignant silence that washes around the table as this bit of information is absorbed. Finally, Lu's son speaks up. I think that we're a bit on the understaffed side to push out like that. As much as I hate agreeing with Lu, he is completely correct. Our world, while well defended, also has too small a population to push out and colonize an empty world, or to field an army to take another world. We're years and years away from such things. Ryu adds in and Lu nods. Maybe conquest and expansion is the wrong way to look at it. A fallback position, though? A weapon stash? A big one? That's much more manageable. Also sensible. If things turn out well, we can then convert all that into planetary defenses if and when we expand. If we don't, then we simply have a stockpile, an emergency base in a hidden location, Victor suggests, and Marcus nods. That I like the sound of. Furthermore, if we can also get construction equipment and other such necessities over as well, then any rebuilding effort or building from scratch if we expand will be that much easier. A nest egg is always good to have. Marcus advises, and there's some nodding. It's out of my wheelhouse of expertise, but from the outside looking in, it seems sensible to have the backup, just to get things ready for later, Franklin says. All right, that's me advised then, Marcus says, holding up his drink to toast them all. No expansion until we're stronger, but a hideaway. Perfect. He throws back the rest of his drink and stands up. Bet I can get 5 strikes in a row. You're on pipsqueak, Jake says, rising up to meet him. You know, for someone from the Empire of the Rising Sun, you seem to have dawn come at you later than I. Lu taunts Ryu as they both stand. Feh, you get the driftwood and foam. I gain the purest rays. Ryu counters and Lu sniffs, before gesturing to the bowling lanes with a jerk of his head. I'm just going to hang out and think for a bit, guys. Maybe some commentary, Franklin says as he simply reaches for the drink pitcher in the middle of the table and refills his glass. I shall keep you company. You're quiet, amusing, or insightful, Victor says, and there's chuckling as the rest of the table gets up to start bowling against each other. Sai and Marcus remain behind as well. Things get off to a quick start as Beck immediately gets a strike and starts rubbing it in before Jean-Luc does the same. The look of competition from both of them lets everyone know where tonight's entertainment will be coming from. Victor chuckles as he sips at his vodka, and there's a slight crunching as Sai eats a few nuts. How will he fit in? Sai asks, and Marcus hums. He's not an idiot. But our new Canador friend has been taught his whole life to distrust. A fair thing to have in the intelligence division, which he will be part of. But getting information out of him might be like pulling teeth. He will, however, be working very hard to ensure the safety of himself and his children, Marcus says, and Victor nods as he considers. It's going to be a long time until he can lock down the loyalty of some women. Ironically, it will make him more appealing to them. The DILF energy is something he's all but swimming in, Franklin says, and there's some snorts of amusement, especially as Jean-Luc starts gloating when Beck only gets a spare. Well, as much as him being a father is appealing to them, there's still the fact that forcing a soldier into a relationship is still illegal as far as we're concerned, Victor notes. Indeed. However, there may be some ways around it. You don't have to give the horse the carrot for it to follow one on a string. This is more like a pack of wolves with a bloody stake. Cy notes, and Franklin gives out a snort before his eyes widen, and he suddenly struggles to avoid bursting out in laughter. What's so funny? Sorry, I just pictured someone throwing a stake on Miles' agenda, just pouncing on him for it, Franklin says around some chuckles. That's not how their first date went. No, but it's a funny image, Franklin replies, and there's an appreciative nod from Cy. Funny or not, heads on straight. Victor begins, and Franklin makes a gesture, and suddenly, one of Jean-Luc's bowling ball does the jitterbug halfway down the lane before continuing on its way like nothing happened. Franklin, come on, Beck calls out as the interfered with shot becomes a strike. The French demolitionist next to him, on the other hand, is cackling. If you want to play with them, put your name on the scoreboard and play, Marcus says, and Franklin shrugs. We have different ideas of fun. He says, before Beck's shot is then altered to loop the entire way down the track and then get its own strike. Hey, no interfering with the games, Jean-Luc calls out. Oh, now you're bitching. Beck counters him as Franklin snickers to himself in glee. Are you done yet? Marcus asks him, and Franklin takes in a deep breath and relaxes. Yes, I'm done. So, think you might get some more girls? Cy asks Franklin after a bit, and he pauses. Maybe. Maybe not. I like to keep my home peaceful. Yes, doing things tactically was good, but a good relationship is still needed even if the woman I'm fucking is some high-end mover and shaker, Franklin says. Is that what you're doing? Marcus asks. I thought you were just jumping on anyone that could successfully get their flirting through your dense skull. No, I notice. What do I do? Is it appropriate? Is it inappropriate? Should I? Shouldn't I? Is it smart? Is it stupid? There's a lot I don't know, Franklin says and sighs. Usually by the time I have any idea what the hell to do, the opportunity is long past. It's like when you guys come up with an amazing comeback, 3 hours too late. I'm always about 5 or 6 minutes too late at best for most conversations, Franklin says before flinching a bit as one of the bowling balls strikes home. Now, come on. Hypersensitivity? Victor asks. Unfortunately, sorry gents, my ears say leave, Franklin says, standing up and draining the last of his drink. One last thing before you go, Victor says, and Franklin gives him his full attention. The instant and unwavering stare directly into his soul is unnerving and odd, but fairly normal for Franklin. Biron surprised you with his axiom abilities. How good is he? Franklin looks away in consideration and frowns thoughtfully. It's not that he's good at it, it's that he's paying close attention and understands what he sees. That's what separates someone who uses axiom from an adept, and Biron is so aware that he can only be an adept. I don't think it's his first answer, but the more he runs out of non-axiom solutions, the more axiom solutions will show up. Does that make sense? It does. Thank you, Victor says, and Franklin offers a simple nod before heading for the front door. He shouts his goodbyes to the rest of the men and is quickly out of the building.